All right, welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson. Now, if you followed my channel for a little bit, it is no secret that I and this channel support the Atomweight division, very heavily. And since this channel's inception, we've been supporting a UFC Atomweight division. That has not changed at all in the last several years. So that's why I'm bringing back the case for UFC Atomweight. Welcome to the 2020 edition. Now, I'm going to present to you several good reasons for the UFC to open the division. Some of these are for entertainment factors. Some of these are from a business perspective. And then after I present those reasons, I'm going to give you some very interesting stats that show that this is a growing division in the sport. The sport itself is continuing to grow, but this division is growing along with it. And when I give you these reasons as well, I'm also going to give you some very good examples behind these reasons to open the division. So let's get started. So reasons to open a UFC Atomweight division. Okay, first up, speed. Okay, these fighters are fast. Slow movers are the exception in this division. In the speed aspect, they're basically the equivalent to the men's flyweights. Okay, some examples. Amp the Rocket. She moves blindingly fast. She took down Ayaka Hamasaki and moved to back mount in their fight quicker than just about anything I've ever seen. She was that fast. Alicia Zappitella, when she darts in and out on takedowns on fighters and landing strikes, super fast. And then Shiyu Park, she is practically running circles around some of her opponents with her striking. She is that fast. So speed, I mean, we're talking very fast moving fighters here. Okay. Reason number 2, deceptive power. Now, a lot of people think, well, they're little fighters. They're not going to have knockout power. They're not going to be finishing their opponents. Listen, there are some heavy-handed hitters in this division despite their size. For example, Alicia Zappitella, her debut fight in Invicta FC, dropped Jillian DeCoursey, I think, several times with her hands. Sahi Ham has finished 4 out of her last 6 opponents with strikes. And then Yuri Shim, she gets her hands on you and gets you in a clinch. She's going to absolutely batter you with her knees. She throws them so heavy. Okay? And I didn't even bother including Hisai Watanabe because she's retired. But she's like one of the original knockout queens of the women's divisions. And she was basically an atomweight. So I don't want to hear about, oh, there's no knockouts in this division. There are some heavy hitters here. Okay, deceptive power. Number 3, relatively good finishing rate here. Okay, I did a companion video to this series last week, 10 atomweights the UFC needs to sign, and half of that list had a 50% or higher finishing rate. Okay, some examples of that. Elise Anderson has a 60% finish rate. Lindsey Van Zandt, 85%. John Park, 72%. So that's 3 fighters, 60% or greater. And then there was at least 2 more fighters on that list that had 50% or greater. So I don't want to hear that there's no finishes going on in the atomweight division. It has a high finishing rate. Number 4, X Factor, the looks. I realize that this shouldn't matter, but it does, okay? Particularly from a business standpoint. You want fighters that are going to be able to market themselves or appeal to people, okay? And atomweights are generally pleasing aesthetically, okay? You're not going to have fighters coming out like you will in the higher weight divisions that are going to come out and they got rolls hanging off over their shorts, okay? They're all in good shape in this division. They all have general pleasing aesthetics. A lot of them have really good charisma and an it factor. So some examples I picked out. Miyu Yamamoto. She's 45 and looking that good. Granted, she's even exceptional even for this division. But for 45 years old, she's in great shape. Wow. Jong-un Park. Not what most people would consider good looking, but I'm telling you, watch some of her interviews. Even if you can't understand what you're saying, she has an energy and a charisma about her that makes you take notice. And pretty rare for an Asian fighter, she talks trash. She's not afraid to, talk some crap about her opponent. It's mostly mild-mannered, but it's still trash talk. And then I've talked about her before. Lindsey Van Zant is just the cutest. That New York accent, there's something about it. Okay, next up, number 5. Most of these fighters are going to be relatively easy to acquire, and this is a business standpoint looking at here. Okay, this division is spread out across a bunch of different promotions right now. Few of them are going to be on exclusive contracts. Okay, for example, Deep Jewels, Road, Ryzen, Bellator, Invicta, all have had fighters traveling between them. So there's always that relationship of even the fighters that might be assigned to exclusive contracts right now are still getting allowed to go fight elsewhere in order to get fights. So being spread out like this means less exclusive contracts, which means that you can get these fighters to sign to you. Of course, once they get to the UFC, they'd be on exclusives. But right now, most of them aren't, which would make them easier, I should say, relatively easy, like I said, for the UFC to acquire. Reason number 6, expense. Most of these fighters aren't going to be too expensive to get. Okay, a new division means most fighters are going to be on base pay or near it. Now, do I think the vast majority of MMA fighters are grossly underpaid? Yes. But again, I'm talking about this from a business standpoint. Okay? The champion, your initial champion, and a couple of top fighters are going to cost more in order to get them to sign, but it's going to be worth it. And then the rest of them are going to come fairly cheap. And they'll stay that way for really their first contract at least. So it's from a business standpoint, these fighters aren't going to be too expensive to get. Number 7, competitive. Okay, there's no super dominant fighter in the Atomweight division. A lot of fights are really close, really competitive. That doesn't mean boring, okay? These are exciting fights, okay? Even plenty of fights between the low and the high level fighters can make for entertaining fights. I mean, you can take one of the lower ranked fighters, put them in there with one of the higher ranked fighters, and they're still going to put on a good, entertaining, exciting fight. Okay, a couple examples of just how competitive these are. Or a recent fight, Jin Yu Fry versus Ashley Cummins 2. That fight was very close, very entertaining, and that was for a championship fight. Ayaka Hamasaki versus Amp the Rocket. Amp the Rocket had, I don't know, less than 6 fights maybe when she fought Ayaka Hamasaki, and she had Hamasaki in trouble in that fight, like deep trouble early. She shouldn't have been. Statistically, going by the records and everything, she shouldn't have had Hamasaki in trouble, but she did. And then Sahi Ham versus Jong-un Park. Nobody was really giving Jong-un Park any chance in that fight, but she gave a good account of herself in that fight. Gave a tough first round to Ham. Ham started taking over in the second and third, but she didn't give up, and she still kept coming. So even if you take the high and low level fighters and put them against each other, they're going to have some competitive, fun, entertaining fights. Okay. Reason number 8. opening this division is not going to negatively affect other divisions in the UFC. Okay, for example, when they opened flyweight, half the bantamweights moved down. Half the top 10 in bantamweights moved down. And several fighters from strawweight have moved up and are still moving up. Okay, so it's kind of negatively affecting both of those divisions. Atomweight is only going to draw from one division, the strawweight division, and there aren't going to be that many fighters. And not second of all, but most of those fighters are going to be outside the top 10 because they're too small to compete. And finally, 115 is the deepest division, so even if it loses a few fighters, it still has plenty of fighters left to make up for it. It's still going to be the deepest, the shark tank of the women's divisions. And then finally, number 9. Why not? Listen, UFC has a lot of events to fill this year, a short amount of time to do it. Granted, they have a lot of fighters already, but some of them aren't going to necessarily be ready to fight. I think if you were to say, hey, we're opening an atomweight division, or we're going to start having some atomweight fights, they call some managers, be like, hey, can your fighter come and fight? I think any atomweight is going to jump at the opportunity to fight in the UFC, especially in those first couple fights to introduce the division. They're going to come in, they're going to fight their ass off, okay? And then, again, why not? Listen, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? What does the UFC have to lose by opening an atomweight division? Nothing, okay? They have such a firm grasp on this sport overall, such a firm grasp on the minds of fans that they have nothing to lose here. And then, hey, they've kept the featherweight abortion going on life support for how long? They've screwed that division up so bad. I mean, they're keeping that going. Why not atomweight? They can definitely do a better. They can't do a worse job with atomweight than they did with featherweight. All right, so that was my 9 reasons for the UFC to open the atomweight division. Let's go ahead and look at some statistics here. Okay, I went back to my 2018 edition of this video, the first edition. I drew up got some stats from 2017. There were 66 atomweight fights in 2017, 26 super atomweight fights. That's moving all the way up to like 108, 110. So that's 92 total fights. That's not a bad number considering how spread out these fighters are, how spread out these fights are around the world. Okay, now 2018 to 2019 comparison, we're going to add the minimum weight division, 100 pounds, or up to 100 pounds. So we got 3 divisions, atomweight up to 105, super atomweight up to 110, minimum weight or microweight up to 100. So for 2018, 79 atomweight fights, 20 super atomweight fights, 2 minimum weight fights for a total of 101. So that's some, even if you take off the minimum weight fights, that's still some growth there in the division. 31 fighters, atomweight fighters, made their pro debut in 2018. Then you go to 2019. Now, got to do some thinking with these numbers here. 66 atomweight fights, which is down from 79. However, super atomweight fights are up 36. And then minimum weight fights are also up at 6 fights for a total of 108 fights. So there's, again, some growth with 27 pro fighters making their debut in 2019. Now the loss of atomweight fights last year is made up and easily explained by the growth in super atomweight fights. There was a bunch of atomweights that moved up to fight in, like, say, Ryzen or Shudo just opened a super atomweight division, and some catchweight fights as well. So there were fighters that were moving up to fight at the super atomweight division because that's where the fights were available. So there is definitely some growth in the division. Okay, and again, slight increase from 2018 to 2019. Then, if you look at the amateurs, now I don't normally cover the amateurs, but I have reasons for doing this here. From 2018 to 2019, Atomweight went from 53 to 66 fights in 2019. Super Atomweight, 11 fights in 2018 to 19 in 2019. Minimum weight actually dropped down one from 4 to 3 between 2018 and 2019. So from 68 fights in 2018 in the amateurs to 88 in 2019. So 20 total fight increase. And it's very important to have a healthy amateur system, okay? Because while not every amateur turns pro, a healthy amateur division ensures a healthy future for the pro division, okay? That's where you get your debuting fighters from. You take them from the amateurs, okay? Okay, so that's really what I wanted to present for why the UFC should open the Atomweight division. This is my case for the Atomweight division in the 2020 division. Do I think that the UFC is going to open the Atomweight division? Do I truly believe it's going to happen in 2020? I have my doubts, but I'm not going to stop advocating for it anyway. I want to give a special shout out to Mark P. at Wombat Sports. That's wombatsports.wordpress.com. He provided me with the statistics. He also does the WMMA Math podcast. He just released the latest edition where he goes over the stats for all of the divisions. So shout out to Mark P. for sending me these statistics. And interesting thing, he had Laura Sanko on his latest WMMA Math podcast to go over some of these stats. And Laura Sanko, a lot of you know her for doing the backstage interviews in the UFC. She does interviews and some commentary for Invicta FC. But she was an atomweight fighter. She fought on, I believe it was Invicta 1 was her pro debut. And she had, I think, around 8 amateur fights, she said. She is a strong advocate for the atomweight division. She says just about every time she's around Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, the UFC matchmakers, she's dropping hints like, hey, how about that atomweight division? And she thinks it's not going to happen this year. So that's why I'm a little pessimistic on the idea of it happening this year. However, I'm still going to continue advocating it. Very big on hashtag UFC Atomweight. I'm still going to push for it, no matter what. And I think if you enjoy the ladies' fights, then you should be as well. So that's it for Case for UFC Atomweight 2020 edition. Also go check out the companion video I released last week. 10 atomweights the UFC needs to sign. Very good list. It's well thought out. It's broken down between 5 up-and-comers and prospects and 5 fighters who are currently at the top of the division. Please go check that out as well. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the atomweights, love them, don't like them, don't want to see them in the UFC. Hey, I'm wide open for opinions, okay? Willing to listen to them all. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.